Hello. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of The Rose Show. As always, I am your host, Jay. Who else but me? And today, my guest is the infamous Nastie Ink. I've got a lot of respect for this dude and all that he does in the world of entertainment and underground music, whether it be sound, being a stage performer, whatever. I mean, he does it all. Promoter, name it. If there's something you can do, he does it. So I got a lot of respect for this guy, but we'll get into that here in a couple minutes. Just real fast before we get going, I wanted to remind everyone there will not be an episode of The Rose Show next week. And the reason being is because Camp Zool will be in full effect next week, and I will be there doing my thing, and hopefully I will be seeing you guys there as well at Camp Zool number 4. I can't believe we're already at the 4th one already, but here we are. It's going to be a great time. If you haven't got your tickets yet, make sure you are there. Do not miss this one. It is going to be a good one. I am probably more excited for this one than I have any of the other ones. Not necessarily because the performer list, or the events, whatever it might be, although I am excited for that. I'm excited to see my homies, Fams and the Hooligans play. I'm excited to see V Sinister play, Stray and Novels. I mean, I could go on and on about everybody I'm excited to see. But more than anything, I feel like I've connected with a lot of people doing this show than I have in previous years. I know a lot more people by name, so this is going to be a good one for me. I'm really looking forward to it. So, hopefully I see you there. But that is the reason why there will not be an episode next week. I will be too busy working to really put any kind of promotion behind it. And I've been planning this since the inception of the show, skipping next week. So, there will be no episode, but there will be one the week after. Although one has not been announced. The reason being is because the format is changing. I will no longer be announcing the guests a few weeks beforehand, just trying to keep things fresh and new. So there will be an episode after Camp Zool, so stay tuned for that announcement, probably coming the Monday before. I don't see why it wouldn't be the Monday before, but more than likely it will be the Monday before the Wednesday that the next episode drops. But anyway, enough of my babbling. Let's go ahead and get a word from my sponsor and then into the next episode with Nastie Ink. Check it out, y'all. All right, everybody, it's time to stop and let you know about today's sponsor of the show, Crazy Martin's in Piqua, Ohio, one of my favorite places in the entire world to go to. Crazy Martin's has provided their customers with quality products for over 20 years, from ashtrays to water pipes and everything in between. Stop in, check out their selection, and of course, check out their pinball machines. With over 20 pins to choose from, there is something for everyone. Crazy since 1996. I don't just say this about every place. I love going to Crazy Martin's. I've always loved going to Crazy Martin's ever since I was of age to go to Crazy Martin's. It's one of my favorite places in the entire world. Me and my wife go there almost every Sunday to play pinball machines. It is one of the funnest spots in Ohio you could possibly find. It is in Piqua, Ohio. Check out their website at www.crazymartins.com. What up? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of The Rose Show. As always, I am your host, Jay. Who else but me? And today, my dude, I've said this a couple of times, and I'm sure some of you are tired of hearing me say this, but it's important to point this out almost every single time. So when I'm doing my job, whether it be as a promoter or somebody who is just running the show like I do for AXE, normally when I get around certain people that I consider friends, it's normally just because we only see each other during the show. Now, what's really cool about the Rose Show is that I get to take these people that I've known for in some cases 9 years, up to 9 years. I get to talk to these people on a personal basis because during the show, there's really not a whole lot of time for that. So today, my guest is one of those people to where we've crossed each other's paths, I don't know how many times, but we've never really had a chance to sit down and just talk and have a good conversation. So that's what we're going to be doing here today. He is Nastie Ink. Like I said, we've been in the same circles for a long time, and I'm really looking forward to having a chat with this dude. My brother, how are we doing today?
I am fantastic. How are you doing today?
Not bad, my dude. It is going to be, as we're recording this right now, which will be a couple weeks before it's released. My birthday is this weekend. So I am going to be living it the fuck up. It's going to be beautiful outside. The weather, I think, is going to be 80 degrees on, well, Saturday, 80 degrees, I think, again on Sunday. Man, I'm looking forward to this weekend. This is going to be fun. But
Hell
anyway,
yeah.
that's this weekend. Let's talk about now. So, as of this moment, as I said, the main thing I want to focus on, and I'm sure we'll get into the weeds like I do with every episode. The main thing I want to focus on is not only your background to start off with, but you're one of the few people that I can have like actual business conversations with,
Yep.
other than Scum. But other than him, there's not too many people that I can actually really talk about, the logistics, because not only are you an artist, but also like me, more of the backstage, the
Yep.
equipment, all that kind of stuff. You're more in depth than most, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But let's go ahead and start off, like I said, with your background a little bit and your upbringing and kind of the path you took to get into underground music.
Man, it's wild. So I'm a Cincinnati boy. Well, Hamilton boy. I was born and raised in Hamilton, Ohio. And I was raised in a big country music family. Like my grandparents are fucking Bible thumpers, which is great, but like they're those people that like push it onto everybody. Okay.
Right, man.
So with them, it was like I always had country music, and then my mom married a guy, and it was metal, like hair metal, and then I linked up with some cats. Um, fuck, I was like 15, 16. They were a group called Kings of Havoc out of Hamilton, Ohio, and they actually brought me in, and they taught me how to like count bars, and they taught me how to like run a soundboard and do all these things. And then one day I was like, you know what, fuck it, I want to write music, and we just started slowly doing it. Like it took
Yeah.
years, but we started slowly doing it, and it's kind of I moved out to Indiana and was like, yeah, let's just go with it. So
Did you know that you had a talent for more of the technical side of stuff at an early age? Because, like, for me, I would download applications like SoundForge, and that's how I learned audio editing for the most part, was basically teaching myself, because back then it was early 2000s. But it was at the infancy of the internet where you could easily download a program through LimeWire or BearShare or Kazaa or whatever it might have been. So I would download these apps and just teach myself how to start doing some of this stuff. Is that similar to you, or did that come later?
kinda, kinda. It came later. It came a little bit later. So one of my buddies that was in that band Kings of Havoc, he was going to school to be a sound engineer. So as he's going to Butler Tech for that, I'm learning with him, like helping him do his homework, and I'm reading his books and pretty much doing everything hands on with this guy. And then it was like once I moved to Indiana, I kind of felt lost. So I got me a little computer mic and it was like a USB computer mic, and I ended up bootlegging a copy of Sony Vegas. And we started with that. And then it was
Yeah.
Mixcraft, and now it's Studio One.
Yeah. I'm stubborn when it comes to programs. And again, I'm just throwing this out here right now for anybody watching. We're gonna get into the weeds into some shit that's probably not gonna be like real groundbreaking to anyone. But this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation, is to talk about shit like programs and applications.
Yes. It's
But
like my favorite thing to
but
talk about too. I love the
I know.
technical shit.
So buckle up, motherfuckers.
It's gonna
But
be a ride.
but I to this day, and I want to know if you're this way too, because it seems like, for me anyway, I find a program that I like for video editing when it comes to this show, whatever it might be. Video editing, I'm most comfortable with Sony Vegas Pro 15. Now I know that's like at this point, I think 4 or 5. I don't even know how many versions old that is, but it's quite
It's
old. Every time I start it and the internet pops up, I get like a special offer to upgrade by like half. but um, that is what I'm most comfortable with. So I don't upgrade because I know that program. I
Yep.
know the ins and outs of it. I can do it. Are you the same way, or do you kind of go with the cutting edge?
That's how it is with me. I use for video editing per se, I use Premiere CS6
Okay.
still.
Yeah.
And we're on a CC now.
CX6 was a good. I used to run before I started with Vegas Pro. I ran CX6, so I'm
Yeah.
very familiar
I
with that.
still
Yeah. Oh,
I still run CS6. I actually I just had it up a few minutes ago. I need to get into CC because there's so much more you can do that I find myself like frame by frame doing things the hard way still. And
right.
I'm like, yeah, I should probably like speed my workflow up a little bit.
But is that because you're a control freak like me? Because I would rather go frame by frame. Matter of
Yeah.
fact, by this time, the episode would have been out for a while. But I literally took 2 days to edit the Tom Arnold episode a couple episodes back because there was a little bit of sound issues. So I sat there for, dude, I'm not even exaggerating, 10 hours a day just literally going millisecond by millisecond by millisecond trying to
Yep.
clean it up as best as I could because I couldn't handle it not being that way. So you said, yeah, you're the same
Yep.
exact same way.
Exact same way with
Yeah.
everything. It's not just with like with video work, it's with audio. It's with like I just released an album and I spent a year just mixing it because I'd go back into it and I'd be like, God, this doesn't sound right. Like something's off here.
Yeah.
Like there's a high frequency here that I could probably pull out, but when I do that, it sounds muddy. So I'm like, oh, what do I do?
Yeah. Right. Keegan Grimm said in his episode not to let good become the enemy of great or something along those
Yep.
lines, and that stuck with me because there's so many of us who do that. But anyway, let's get back to the little bit of your origin stories here. So how underground rap, because it does, people don't just, maybe they might, but I haven't found any way, people don't just go, hey, I think I'll do this underground rap shit. There's always a reason why. So is there with you?
Yeah, there my cousin Mandy, when I was a kid, she slipped me a I remember it. My very first I'm gonna say my very first hip hop song, but it wasn't my first hip hop song. My very first underground rap song was Fat Sweaty Betty by Insane Clown Posse.
Oh Jesus.
And I fell in love with it. Like I went down this fucking rabbit hole, dude, and I just kept going and going and going. And then I found like through the years, I think it was like 2006, 2007, I ended up finding Low Key.
Yeah.
Got real big into the Seventh Seal shit. Real big into the Mission Effect stuff when they dropped. I was like, I got it fucking tattooed on my arm. And I had this like it felt right. So then I started studying these cats. Like at this point, I'm still trying to figure out who I am as an artist. Like I haven't found a style yet. I haven't like found myself. So I started studying, Low Key, Mad Max, King Gordy, Scum, fucking lyric. It just studying it, and
Yeah.
I found my cadence, and I was like, okay, so this is where I belong. This is what I want to do, and it just kind of paved its way. Like once I started taking it seriously instead of just jacking beats off fucking YouTube and I, actually
What
started.
what year? What year did you hear that track?
Fuck, I was sixth grade, so 2000, no, 9/11. It was 2000, yeah, that year.
Okay, so you're more of the newer era then.
Yeah,
That's safe to say.
the
Okay,
end
cool,
of
cool,
the
cool.
end of the end of the golden era, like the end of the family era.
Gotcha.
New,
Word.
yeah.
Okay, so how did you end up getting to a point where you were going to really make like a legit run for this? Because there's a lot of people that have been in the scene for years and just kind of, do their thing. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But for the more serious players, it seems like there's always a moment where it's like, you know what, I know that I can do this. I know I've got a talent for either whatever it be booking, the art form of it, whatever it might be. There's always a
Um,
moment where people are like, I'm going for this. So what was yours?
I was working at Taco Bell, and me and Amber had just got married. Um, and we sat down. I wasn't happy. Like, I'm back at Taco Bell now. I'm an assistant GM, but like back then, like where I was at the location, I wasn't happy. I was sitting in our apartment pretty much all day making music, then going to work, and then coming back home working on music, drinking fucking heavily, which I still drink a little bit, but not a fuckload like I used to. And my wife kind of looked at me and she was like, "Look, quit your fucking job. I need you to focus on this. You're really good. You have potential. You need to do something with it." So I did. And I started like slowing down. I linked up with Magic Deuce and Menacide, and they kind of like showed me some ropes and then sent me on my way, which was probably one of the best things that has ever happened to me. Like those boys pretty much like paved me and molded me to be me as an artist. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
So like those boys, I have a lot of love for them. Rest in peace, man. Side, you know, like we lost him a couple years ago, but without them, I really wouldn't have been like, okay, let's fucking do this, because I was always told it wasn't going to happen, that it was just a pipe dream, you know. And then I started learning the business aspects of things.
Yeah.
And
So, all right, yeah, let's go ahead and keep going into that a little bit then. As far as like, was it for me? It wasn't necessarily like something that I stumbled onto. I started promoting shows in Dayton because I had no other choice. Like it was either I start booking my own shows, or I was never going to get to that next plateau. So, was that how was your story?
um so ABK was booked at a show in Indianapolis and refused to do it because they couldn't move the DJ booth. So I had sold all these tickets to this show, and then the bar's like, "Yeah, show's canceled." So I was like, "All right, fuck it. If you're an artist on this show and you sold tickets, and if you have a ticket, meet me at this location." Well, my buddy was like, "I have a house." I had a PA system because I'd use it to practice, and I was like, "All right, well, we're gonna throw a fucking house party." So everybody that had a ticket to that show, and everybody that was performing at that show, ended up in this little shotgun house in the middle of Indianapolis, and we packed out the living room and the kitchen. And then I was like, "Yeah, so this is how we're gonna do things from now on,"
Right.
and that's how Nasty Bash became a thing.
That's something that I don't care if I say this publicly because I don't chase clout, so it doesn't matter to me. Something that I think a lot of people just kind of quietly talk about is the fact that ABK at one point was one of the most difficult sons of bitches to work with, whether you're a promoter, an artist, whatever the hell it might be. I've heard the same story from the same people over and over and over again. People used to call him Little Violent J because he was such a pain in the ass to work with. And it's better now. I've heard from not only my interactions with him at Camp Zool, because I did have the last time he performed there, he was actually a joy to be around, and he always showed flashes of that. But
Yeah, he didn't seem like a bad person to be around at all whenever I met him at camp. And I've only met him
yeah,
maybe 2 or 3 times, like
there was one instance, and I'm not saying this because I'm salty. I'm not saying this for any other reason because it happened, and I have no reason to be salty because at the end of the story, she still came home with me. But at one show in particular, him and Big Hoodoo tried to take home my now wife, or try to get her and her sister to go to Juggalo Day, and they knew that she was with me. Now
that would have been
again,
heated.
I couldn't care less because I trust Leah. I would totally understand if somebody did get fucking pissed. I didn't. And still to this day, it doesn't bother me because at the end of the day, she still came home with me that night. It didn't
Yeah.
matter. She wasn't even tempted and it was fine. So even if I were to see him now, it'd still be like, hey, whatever. But that kind of shows you a little bit of, who he was then. Again, I have heard nothing but positive things about him since he started, working with M&E and kind of got out of his own way. But you look at somebody like him, truth be told, until I started really promoting and hearing these stories and being around with him, I always thought he was one of the most underrated in the underground, if not at one point. That Medicine Bag album, bro, start to finish is fucking
Oh yeah.
fire. Fucking
His
fire. One of
his
my
first
favorites.
Psychopathic album, dude. I remember that coming
Hatchet
out.
Warrior.
I
Yeah.
had that bitch
Yeah.
on repeat for months, and then when Dirty History dropped, it was the same thing, repeat for months.
Yeah.
He was my favorite Psychopathic artist for years, dog,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
years.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, I had that one little it wasn't even an interaction. It was the venue that called me. They're like, "Hey,
Right.
cancel." I was like, "Well, fuck."
Yeah. So, and this, I'm not trying to make this into an ABK bash session or anything.
No,
It's
never.
just what happened. It's just what happened, you know. And same thing with you. You're not sitting here trying to say, "Oh, fuck him for canceling the show." It worked out great for you.
It was a
So,
blessing in
you know,
disguise. Like, low key, like, yeah, I was kinda heated
right.
at the moment. Like, I really wanted to meet the guy because I never met him at that point. But then, like, if
Yeah.
it wasn't for that happening, we wouldn't have had Nasty Bash, and, that wouldn't have became a
Right.
thing.
So you kind of alluded to it. That's how Nasty Bash came about. So it
Yeah.
was that obviously that was the point where you're like, you know what, I can do this.
That was 100% my point because we packed that house out, and then it was like, "Okay, where can I go next?" Davis hit me up. He was like, "Yo, we have you can use our spot whenever." So I was like, "Alright." So then we
Just
did
for
4 there.
context, for context, Davis is a promoter.
Yes, he's also the owner of, one of the owners of Carl's Tavern in New Haven.
Yeah. Cool.
So we started doing it up there, and the first one was kinda iffy, maybe sold like 25 tickets, and we sold 2 out in a row. And then I was like, "Okay, so yeah, I could really do this. Like, it's possible. Let's do this."
Yeah. Yeah. Fun fact for those who might not know, Menace to Sobriety was scheduled to play Nasty Bash in 2020.
Yeah, and fucking
I
COVID
never
happened.
And then COVID happened, dude. I was so fucking pissed because, dude, I'm not even kidding. I'm not saying this just to say this. At this point, anybody who watches this show and has for a while knows I don't sugarcoat anything. Obviously, I just told you a story about ABK. I have no reason to make this up. I was looking forward to that event, not only because you had asked us to do it, but it was kind of like, man, I feel like we're finally starting to do this now. Like we're finally starting to get asked to come to some of these underground events. We had like so many paying gigs on the books in 2020, and then COVID shut that shit down, and then the band was over, a year later because we'd taken too many hits. It's just so when I
Yeah.
still to this day, when I see you promote that, I'm kind of like, we never got to play it.
You us ever get back together, the door's always open.
Trust me, I would. That's one that's kind of like, revenge is it's a number one on the list. Like I never got to fucking play that one. But so okay, those who don't know exactly the in-depthness of Nasty Bash, how would you describe it to the everyday person who would come on here, knows nothing about you, knows nothing about underground music? What is Nasty Bash to you and the artists?
It's a showcase of my favorite artists. Legitimately, that's all it is. It's invite only. I don't do buy-ons. I fuck with your music very heavily, so you are invited, and I want to watch you
Yeah.
perform, and that's literally all it is.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
and I've never heard anybody say a bad thing about any of the shows. Nobody talking about no bullshit that's popped off. You have a very successful track record with it.
thank you. Yeah, that means a
Yeah.
lot because this last one, like, we rescheduled our November date to April. It was like April 13th. I didn't realize Astro was that weekend, so I kind of fucked myself. But we ended up having a decent turnout. I think there was like maybe 75, like between 50
Yeah.
and 75 people there. So it wasn't bad for Carl's.
Mhm.
But
And
I
real
wish,
talk for those who don't know, Carl's Tavern, that's about what you want. It's not
yeah.
this venue for those who might not know, Carl's Tavern is not the biggest place in the world, but they got the best food you could possibly ask for. Those
Hmm.
buffalo fries, bro, the first time I had it, I almost nutted in my pants. They're fucking
And a
awesome.
great staff.
And it Yes, great staff. As I was about to say, the management there cares about the people that are in there in the crowd, cares about the artists, cares about the show, and not only that, they're super supportive of the underground. And number three, the environment that you're in is always one of like people that are there to have a good time. And yes, it's not the biggest venue in the world, but I've always preferred playing smaller venues. Like I played an arena before in my first tour with Twisted. It was cool, But I would have much rather play a Carl's Tavern with 100 people, 75 to 100 people in it,
Mm-hmm.
than an arena with 3,000. It's the difference is night and day. So if you ever have a chance to go to a Carl's Tavern show, please go. They're not paying us to say this. It's 100% truth.
It's not promotion, I promise, but it is.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. But okay, so going backwards a little bit. When did you start deciding to produce your own stuff as far as the digital aspect of it and the cameras and figuring out you knew how to do sound equipment? Because you kind of you're your own master in this world.
Um, so with Price, with him going to school, I kind of learned everything. Like we were recording everything on a fucking it was like a U2, the Line 6 UX2 or some shit like that. It was an old ass interface back when they just came out with the interfaces. You plug in USB. So I was learning everything through him while he was going to school, and I kind of got to the point to where I was helping him engineer all their shit, and I was putting my ears to it, and then I got really good at it. Like in high school, I went to a tech school out here in Indiana called C9, and they had a broadcasting class. I was like, all right, I'm gonna take this. So I took broadcasting, and then it was like, okay, so I can set up everything in my house. I know what I need. I know how to do this. Let's do this. And then what Deuce told me, one thing Deuce told me while I was with BBR was that as an independent artist, it's easier for you to do everything yourself than it is to reach out and deal with other people and their deadlines.
Yeah.
So
And money. Yeah.
that too. And that's always
Yeah.
been a thing with me, like now I'm good, but back then I was working at, Taco Bell making $8.75 a fucking hour. I didn't have a lot of that. So I had to learn more, and I'm always learning. I'm always learning new shit. When it comes to like audio, and that's my favorite thing to do. Like I fucking love audio work.
Yeah.
But as far as it goes with like me engineering my own stuff and like engineering for other people, I found out I was good at it and then just rolled with it.
Yeah.
And with the live situation, that's a completely different fucking story because that just kind of happened on a whim and I had no idea I was good at it.
Yeah. Me and Lee Carver had a conversation. It was a couple months ago. I was at his house and we're talking, and we kind of came to this realization, and he's came to this realization before, but it's one of those things that really solidifies it, when you kind of say it out loud with someone else. Because I was telling him about how pretty much everything that I did for Menace to Sobriety, I do for this show. I make my own
Mm-hmm.
graphics. I obviously edit this. I fuck with the audio. I make my own promotional videos. And we were just sitting there talking, and he's like, "Yeah, I was just talking to Billy the other day and pretty much saying that, anybody who gets into the rap game anymore thinks that they're just going to record a couple tracks and that's it. That's not
Mm-hmm.
nearly enough. That's one part. When it comes to the actual performing of this music, that's about 20 minutes to an hour out of a 24-hour day.
It's
And
like
that's just
2%.
yeah, that's like 2%. Everything I just listed off, you have to learn Photoshop. You have to learn some kind of video editing service. You have to learn how to properly, you have to be a social media marketing engineer at this point anymore, especially with
Yeah.
today's Facebook algorithm is so goddamn ridiculous. Let me
Mm-hmm.
explain this to people. And I don't mean to get on a soapbox here, but I'm gonna, because I'm
No,
talking to one of my
I'm
dudes,
ready
but
for
I'm
it.
gonna do it. So when you scroll past a friend, an artist that you like, whatever it might be, when you scroll past their work without pressing like, which is 100% free and it takes 0.5 milliseconds,
Mm-hmm.
you are screwing that person out of an algorithm that keeps their shit going and circulating. Now, I know a lot of people don't realize that, but from our perspective, that one little millisecond of you just clicking it helps us to a point you couldn't even imagine, because it sends it to 4 other people. And if those 4 other people did it, it sends them to 8 more people, and that snowballs over and over
Yep.
and over again. Why is this so hard? Because if 10 of you scroll past one post and none of you hit likes, if we don't drop money to promote that post, nobody sees it. And I'm
Back of
not
the
over
line.
exaggerating. 10 people go past that and nobody presses any kind of interaction with it. nobody sees it without at least putting in at least $5, and you
Yep.
have to promote it on your own. So your simple act of not pressing like causes them, or love, whatever it might be, causes them to literally have to shell out money in their pocket. The free route you could go to
Could
help out
save
your
so
favorite
much money.
artist would save us all so much money. But that
Mhm.
shit like that, to my original point, that is the game anymore. It is no longer just going, in the early 90s when I was a little kid, it was all I got to do is make a dope demo. Somebody's going to pick it up and they'll do that for me. Nah, the record industry is completely changed now. It's no longer that.
Nope.
There's not even going to be a record industry in the next 10 years. Look at guys like, Jelly Roll, who has done it all on his own. People see Jelly Roll and they think, oh man, he must be signed to a major label. No, he's still doing
Mm-mm.
it all on his
He's
own.
still independent.
It's still independent. The days of the record label are dead. You have to be a hustler anymore. But
Yep.
anyway, that's my soapbox thing there, and I'll leave it at that.
But that's also why like things like Twitter, or not Twitter, TikTok are so big right now, because it's so easy just to double tap.
Right.
So people are watching 10, 15 seconds of these little reels, and then boom, boom, and then scrolling back, boom, boom, scrolling back.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that I got to get into, and I'm hoping to like actually start working on that. I got to get good with that shit, because I fall flat on the social media side. Everything else behind the scenes, that's all me. I do everything besides production, all my engineering,
Yeah.
all that. But the social media side of it, like that's my wife. I leave
Yeah.
that to her.
And hell, at this point, we don't even really know. People keep telling me that, like, dude, your videos would be perfect for TikTok. A, I've never really gotten into it before I started this show, so I didn't know anything about it. B, at this point, I ain't about to learn that shit until I know if it's even going to be available in this country in 9 months.
Exactly.
So, see, I was actually just yesterday, I was having a conversation with Scum. We had this same exact discussion about TikTok. The game itself evolves in such a manner to where TikTok could be here today, but it could be gone tomorrow. But when it's gone tomorrow, something's going to take its place.
Yep.
When it takes its place, you got to start all over again. So that's something else that, is another thing to really push out. And it's the stuff that we're talking about here. And I don't disparage anybody from wanting to be a part of a form of entertainment, whether it be podcasting, music, whatever. I don't want to disparage anybody. But when you don't take this seriously and you put yourself in positions that get in the way of the people who do, you are hurting everybody. And I
Yep.
think that's something that, if you want to do this for fun, then do it for fun. Release it for your friends and your little, don't go and join people's shows. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Don't buy tickets.
I have
Don't.
a policy. So my shows for Nastie Bash, that's all invite only. If I bring somebody to town and you can't sell 15 to 20 tickets, I won't put you on a show.
Yeah.
Like flat out. Like I don't do buy-ons. So I'm like, look, you have to at least sell these tickets. Like if you can't do that, then why are you trying to perform? And that's
Right.
my thing. So that's like, I don't it's like a personal thing for me. Like I always see it that way. Like at least 20 tickets. If you can't sell 20 tickets in this day and age, then there's a problem.
Right.
Like,
And not on top of that, and I know there are some people out there that look at the whole selling tickets thing negatively, and I get it. I totally understand. But if you don't have 20 people who want to come see you, why the fuck am I putting you on this bill?
exactly. Exactly. And it's not like I'm like, yo, I'm keeping all that money, because that's not how that works. Like, you give me $5 a ticket, you keep 10. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like, you're making more money than me off the shit. So, but
Right.
if you can't sell 20 tickets, then why do you want to perform? Build that fan base up first before you do this. That's why
Yeah.
like Massive Men doesn't perform yet, because he wants to build that up. Like I tried to bring him to Nastie Bash and he was like, not yet, I'm not ready. Granted, he could sell like the Emerson Theater, for instance, if that was still around, he'd probably sell that out. But I feel like he wasn't ready for it yet, because he wants to like hit a tour and just pack it out every day, which is
Right.
great. But as an artist, I feel like you have to do shows if you're taking it seriously to get that out there. That's still a form of promotion.
Yeah. And that is something I think you hit the nail on the head is it's better to wait until you're ready
Mm-hmm.
and to get out there and just fumble because I went to when I went to college because I went to college for audio engineering and that's where I found out did not have the patience for audio engineering. But when, when I went there, one of my professors at the college I went to said that your CD is an invitation for your show. You know, and that's 100 I've kept that with me for almost fucking 20 years now at this point because it's the truth.
That's actually
The
really
the
smart too. I've never heard of it like that.
it is, and the reason being, and I know a lot of people that don't really, can't think of it that way or don't look at it that way because they're only a fan. It might confuse them a little bit, but think about it this way: why do you go to see the show? Because you're a fan of that person's
Mm-hmm.
music. You don't become a fan of the show and then go to the music. That's backwards. So, and how many times have you seen an artist or a band, whatever it might be? For instance, one of my favorite groups ever, Linkin Park. You can hate anybody can hate on me if they want. I don't care. They were my biggest influence when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
This is early 2000s. But I saw them live two different times. And both times I saw them, I was like, this sounds absolutely nothing like what what I heard on, the track. So you have to they both equal each other out because the music has to invite you to the show, but the show has to prove the music almost.
It has to
So,
keep you.
it exactly, it has to keep you. So that's very important. You're absolutely right.
Yep. It's very important.
Yeah.
And like another thing is like your show lists too. Like you have to build them properly and
Yeah.
not just put your favorite songs on this motherfucker. Go into your Spotify algorithm, look to see what your top streaming songs are, put those on it. Because that's what people want to
Yeah.
hear. That's what they want to see
Yeah.
live.
In your environment too. Where
Mm-hmm.
where are you doing this show? When Menace was doing the show, for our punk rock shows, we had punk rock songs. So we didn't turn around and play Boom Shake, which was, featuring Lee
Right.
Carver and it's that real heavy boom, bum, bum, bum.
Yep.
We didn't do that at a, leg bone punk rock show. Same thing with, the gathering. We played our heavier shit at the gathering. That's also important too. There's definitely a flow to it. But
Oh yeah, it's always
anyway,
the demographic.
yeah, it's always the demographic. It's always the demographic. So over your time doing this, is there specific moments that to this day kind of stick with you, whether it be something that you experienced, something that you went through, a certain show that means more to you? Is there
Yeah.
anything when you think about your time where it's like, wow, this is going to stick with me forever?
So back to the live thing, like me learning live how to learn, like run live sound, because running live sound and running studio sound is a completely fucking different entity. I did
Completely.
not I did not know this. Okay.
Yeah.
Church Azul. Joe Christie threw it up in
Oh,
Indianapolis.
Jesus Christ, bro.
So remember the sound guy, right?
Oh, yeah, I remember that whole night because it was nothing but a 7 hour stretch of stress.
Yeah. So I literally walked over to him right before FAMS and then went on. And I was like, look, I can't have my boys sounding like shit. I need you to get the fuck out the venue.
Mm,
And I took over the board. And I'm pretty sure Bake took it over for me for Zul. Like took it from me
yeah.
for Zul. But I took over the board for 2-6, and the owner of the fucking venue actually came to me that night and was like, "Look, I know you're a studio engineer, but that was fucking you did great. Like you handled that very well. I need you for the baby tomorrow night." I was like, "Okay, like what?" He's like, "Yeah, I need you for the baby tomorrow night in the big room. You know how to run an X32, right?" I'm like, no, but I can learn. Like, let's do this." So that was my journey into live sound, and it just kind of went up from there. Like I picked up a buddy of mine that worked for the Emerson. He tours with like Amir and all them cats. I kind of shadowed him for like the first 6 months, and
Mm.
then kind of went on my way and ended up when we moved out to Cali, I linked up with the drummer for Stabbing Westward and was going to go be a drum tech at his school out in Lancaster, California. When we moved out there, COVID happened.
Mm.
So that didn't fucking happen, and I was pissed. But when we got back, I hopped back into the live shows and I started doing live a lot more. And now I'm running a third party live thing. Like we're supplying light, sound, and stage for the Redneck Rave next weekend.
Oh, yeah.
So like that's the audio engineering side, like in the studio, I've always had a love for it. But when it comes to live now, like that's what I want to do. And that's how like I
Yeah.
make my money now, besides being a manager at Taco Bell. But so I kind of like figured it all out and was like, okay, this is fucking awesome. This is like, and if it wasn't for that show, that would have never happened. So
Yeah.
that show always is like here, and that's one of my favorite stories to tell.
I avoid that night like the plague, even remembering it. So I'm glad somebody got something positive about it. Look, if you weren't there, they had a guy running sound that probably has never even seen a soundboard before. It was atrocious, and there was no power there. God, that night was fucking terrible. And I felt so
It
bad for the
was.
Zool boys because they were like they were just starting to ride this train of an uphill climb. And then this release party was just a turd. Oh God, that was terrible. But anyway, well, what isn't a turd, and what at this point is coming up in a matter of weeks, Camp Zool.
I
I
can't
think,
fucking wait.
I think, which you're obviously performing at,
Yeah.
and this will be. Have you performed? You performed at every one so far, right?
Everyone. Well, so the first two I did. The last year I did the parking lot party for day zero, and
That's
then
right.
I came
Yeah.
back this year.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. So you've been involved in at least every single one of them, including this
I
year.
don't
So
miss it.
this is an event, and I've said this multiple times on this show. I've said it multiple times in person. If you have ever been like, yeah, maybe I might check out a Camp Zool, listen, if you are an old school underground fan, this is as close you can get, if not almost exactly, to the vibe that you would get at an old school
Hmm.
gathering.
It's
Because
fucking gorgeous.
it is. The venue loves us. It's funny. Every year somebody tries to fuck with the sheriffs, and the sheriffs are just like, I don't care what you do. I'm here to make a paycheck. This is a day off for me. Like
Yep.
the cops are cool as fuck at this place. They and I mean, granted, this year, what are they going to do? This is the first year in Ohio that weed is legal, so it doesn't even matter.
Yeah,
But
dude, I was terrified last year. I had an out sitting right next to my grill, and a cop comes walking by. He's like, "You're good. Don't hide it."
yeah,
I'm like, "All
they
right."
don't give a fuck. And I don't mean to get anybody in trouble. I hope I don't get anybody in trouble. But I've had conversations with them before. They're like, we are literally only here to make sure nobody gets killed. Other than that, do whatever the fuck you want. They're some of the coolest dudes. And it's
Yep.
funny because like year one, people were trying to like take pictures with them. And I think that's when a lot of the Camp Zool veterans at that point or at this point now figured out like they didn't care because they're like, hey, can we take a picture? And the sheriffs were like, okay. And you can
Yep.
see people were like, really? They're like, we don't give a fuck. But anyway, so yeah, the cops out there are cool as shit. The vibe is what brings me back every single time because it's the closest you can get to where everybody there is not there. Like you don't have people trying to fuck with anyone.
Hmm.
Your belongings are safe, and that's something that
It's
once upon is getting worse every year at the gathering. Your shit is safe at Camp Zool. You know what I'm saying? The artists are there to have a good time and interact with you. Nobody's there clout chasing, you
nope.
know.
And it's a giant family
It
reunion too. Like everybody is
Yeah,
so close together. Like it's literally what it was years ago. It's like what we all missed.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And for me, I'm looking forward to this year more than anything because since I started doing this show and I've had multiple LLE acts on this show and I've interacted with Zooligans all over the country, I now have like a better, granted, I've been working for them for, I think, close to 4 years almost now, 3 or 4 years at this point. But um I now know everybody. Like it's not just like this, those are the people in the crowd and I'm the guy backstage, trying to get shit figured out. I know everybody on the other side of the stage and that's why I'm looking forward to this so much because I can take somebody's face and put their name to it and I can have a
Yep.
conversation with them about something we've talked about. And granted I've never felt like disconnected from anybody there, but this is the year where I'm more connected than I've ever been to anybody that's going to be there. So I'm
You've
This
had that time
and
to let it
hey,
marinate.
yeah, and I'm an introvert to the 800th degree. 800th degree. I don't like leaving this space. I am excited as fuck for this year. It's not even
Yeah,
funny.
I'm
Like I
I'm
said,
fucking excited, man. I'm very excited. As soon as and what makes me so excited about this year particularly is I get to meet McNasty for the first time.
yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
like
The lineup
I'm
in
a
general
fanboy the
this
fuck
year,
out.
the lineup in general this year is like nothing but
Heavy hitters.
underground G's. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
There's no like gigantic. I don't mean this as an insult, but in every single festival you have to have like two or three different big name headliners. Look, these are just underground ninjas in this bitch. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? And it is going to be when I knew this lineup. I think early March is when we first got it to kind of go over because Billy ended up sending it to me so I could look at the time schedule. And but when I looked at it, I was like, man, this is nothing but underground ninjas. So if you're on the fence, you still haven't bought a ticket, there's plenty of space. That dude, this grounds could probably hold 10,000 people if they really wanted it to. So there's plenty
Campsoul.com.
of
Go buy
space.
tickets.
Yeah, go buy tickets now. They're not again, not a commercial, but as he said the last time, it is a commercial though. But anyway, so as we kind of wind down here, I just kind of wanted to say I have seen you save the day so many times. If you've never gotten public recognition for it, now's the time where I at least want to make sure you get it because there have been so many instances where a sound guy sucks, as we said at the beginning. A sound guy quits like they did at the last Axmas, and you had to run in and save the day. Um, or just the fact that, we needed a wireless mic here or, whatever it might be. You have saved so many people's asses. I don't feel like you get the proper respect that you should be for doing that because whenever we need someone in the clutch, you're fucking there, always willing to help. You don't ask for a dime for it. And you just want to help. So for that, for your contributions, not only as an artist, not only as a content creator, but as somebody that can always be counted on. I do want to thank you for coming from me to you and say, it is appreciated, even if nobody has said that to you. Trust us, it is.
Oh, I
But
know
what I
it is.
want to go ahead, yeah, but what I want to do is I want to go ahead and turn the floor over to you. And if there's any socials or any specific projects coming up, whatever it might be, give you the last couple of minutes to plug them.
I just dropped an album. It's titled Trusted Betrayal. It's on all streaming platforms. And I was actually kind of worried about that motherfucker. I didn't think nobody was gonna fuck with it, but apparently people are. So it's on all streaming platforms. You can find me on pretty much every social. It's the Nasturbator. Xbox, the Nasturbator. PlayStation, the Nasturbator. Like it's pretty easy to find. You can find me at Camp Zool. You can find me May 9th open up for Kasky in Indianapolis at Black Circle. Um, Other than that, my house or Taco Bell.
Well, my brother, thank you for joining me today, my dude. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you, brother.